So I was recording my X-Wing playthrough of Tour 1 Mission 4 with the XWVM mod, and the problem I ran into was that I was not able to give any wingman commands to my wingman, and I couldn't figure out why. What was the problem? So I went on the Discord and I asked around, and rightly so, people pointed out to me that all the X-Wings in this mission are broken up into separate flight groups, therefore you can't give them commands. Which I said, alright, cool. But then I asked why. Is there a reason for that? None of the prior missions were built like this, and few missions later on in the campaign are designed like this either. To which I got two replies. One was a guess, and the other was to ask a guy called Wessman. Now, if you're like me, who was born after the games were made, you'd have no idea who this guy is. Like, other than what Talon had stated in his message, I didn't know anything about who this Westman fellow was. At that point, I thought it was a genuine joke for a couple of reasons. One, X-Wing was made in 1993. I was born in 2000. The majority of people in my generation will react the same way every time someone refers to something in conversation that relates to the years before 1999. We treat it as if it's fucking ancient history. You might as well be talking about 1893, let alone 1993. So I was there chuckling and thinking to myself, yeah, right. For all I know, this guy might already be dead by now. But you know what? I'll entertain the idea for a few seconds, because I got nothing better to do anyways. So I went and Googled this guy, David Wessman. I found a bunch of different pages online, found his resume, which was extremely impressive, and it stated that he was last credited to a game made in 2018, which made me go, okay, maybe the guy's still around. Maybe this guy's got an email or something I can send him. Well, that's when this other game on his page caught my eye, In the Black. Now, I knew this game. I was in the official Discord server of this game. I had joined it many years ago when it was first announced, and I joined the Discord to just keep track of the progress. But it's been so long that I actually forgot all about this game, and it's actually at the very bottom of my Discord server list. I haven't touched it in like years. So I went to the In the Black official website page, which was linked on Mr. David Wessman's LinkedIn profile. And it just so happens to be that Mr. David Wessman here is the lead producer of this game that's currently being developed. Now, at this point, I didn't believe it because, is it the real David Wessman? Is this the actual? Have I got the right guy? Maybe there's another guy out there called the same name, right? So I went into Discord, and just as I enter, I look at the Discord channels, and there just so happens to be some fella called West Maniac, bracket producer, currently live streaming the game at this very moment. Remember, it's the timeline from when Talon answered my question to where I am now in my story was about 5 minutes, okay? There's no way that this was happening or that this is the actual guy. So I did what any normal introvert does, and I just quietly joined the Discord chat and the Twitch stream to find out what was going on and try to figure out if this was actually the guy, alright? So, and as normal introvert does, we start texting first. So I went into the Twitch stream chat, and the co-producer of the game, I can't recall what his name is, he was handling the live stream. So I was asking a chat, is West Maniac David Wessman, who helped make the X-Wing games? And the guy handling the Twitch stream, he confirmed that this is the David Wessman. So I unmuted my mic and then I asked away in the Discord.
You know him?
Well, of course I know him. He's me.
Now, for all I knew, this guy might not even remember the game I was talking about, let alone the exact mission that I was going to ask him the question about. It's almost 32 years ago since he made this game, so this was a whole wild shot in the dark, but I had come this far to give up, so I just went ahead and do it, and it absolutely blew my mind. To my absolute amazement, not only did this guy know about the game I was talking about, but he knew the exact mission and what the problem was with said mission I was asking about. Before I even finished asking the question, what? Remember, this guy made the game 32 years ago, and at the time I was asking this question, he was live streaming a demo of his brand new game on Twitch, and here comes along some random dude asking about a game 32 years old. And David Wessman knew exactly what I was talking about. I mean, half my generation that people I talk to on a daily basis, people can't even recall what they said like a few sentences ago in a conversation, right? And this guy remembered what I'm talking about 32 years ago. So this whole thing just seemed absolutely unreal. It's almost as if God himself came down and said that this one inconsequential question, right, had to be answered in order for the universe to be at peace for some fucking reason.
This was divine intervention. You know what divine intervention is?
Now, this story still gets wilder still, so I got the answers I was looking for. But then, just like the cliche story of like someone going off to the distant mountain to seek the wisdom from the wise old man, Mr. David Wessman here started dispensing wisdom and knowledge all by himself, alright? Apparently, when designing the game, and apparently with regards to that specific mission, he had read a book called The Ace Factor by Mike Spick. Alright, he was reading this book as research for the game, and some of the things that he learned about air combat tactics in World War II were part of the game design that he tried to implement. So now, upon hearing this, my mind was absolutely blown yet again for a couple of reasons. First off, what are you talking about, old man? You telling me you did research into World War II air combat tactics for a Star Wars video game? How? Why? What? And then it hit me afterwards, because of course he did that, because he's not the kind of game developer that I'm familiar with, right? He's OG, he's Knight of the Round Table class kind of guy. Okay, he took his work and his craft super seriously. The kind of people that I'm familiar with, right, that I pay attention to, modern media development drama. I'm accustomed to seeing interviews for TV shows, movies, or video games where the writers and producers and the developers had no prior knowledge of the base game source material, the source material for the things they were making. All they knew is that no matter what happened, whether the product was going to be trashed, they were going to make a shit ton of money out of it. So that was what I was, at the time accustomed to. And here's a guy who has like the same kind of philosophy that Peter Jackson had, is that just because it's set in a fictional setting doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice all logic and throw it out the window. Now, the other thing that continued to blow my mind as Mr. David Wessman was dispensing his wisdom was that I was getting information about a topic that was right up my alley, but I had no idea about, right? So I studied international relations and military history in university. My undergrad dissertation was literally about US strategic air power in World War II. Half the vids on my YouTube channel is nothing but air combat tactics and about trying to get people to work together as a team, alright? And most of the time, still failing miserably because it usually just all comes down to me in the end. But here I was getting info on some of the exact problems that I had encountered in trying to do certain things on my YouTube channel that I never had any real hard answers to. And here was the guy giving me the answers. you you couldn't make any of this up. It just did not make any sense, alright? Now, I'm personally a small fan of Carl Jung, particularly this one idea he coined called synchronicity. Synchronicity basically is the idea that instead of cause and effect relationships governing everything in life, um, there are certain actions and events that could be described as being related through meaning and not through cause and effect. This idea has deep roots in Oriental philosophy, which I really like because I'm not a Westerner. So, the first time I heard about a Western psychologist and philosopher talk about Eastern concepts, it intrigued me. But point being, certain actions and events could be related through meaning and not direct cause and effect. The Western philosophical counterpart to this is just pure statistics and probability. At first glance, it may look like these were a series of mere coincidences that were highly improbable, but if one takes a step back and then looks at the underlying causes for all of the actions that were taken, you can see that the chances were in fact very high for such an occurrence. Where exactly I came across this concept, I can't quite recall. I think it was an academic paper I read some time ago. But simply put, since the interests I had were all very similar to each other, combat flight sims, history, World War II, Star Wars, it only seems logical that someone else interested in similar topics of interest would naturally know a thing or two relating directly to said interest and topics. So that's the rational explanation of what I can tell was a very surreal experience that happened within the span of like 15 minutes. But I like my synchronicity kind of take on things, because when you experience to such an event where certain things all just combine and just act perfectly, you can't help but wonder, like, maybe there's something out there that's making things happen, you never know. But yeah, that is what I consider to be probably the craziest X-Wing story that I've ever seen or heard. it's mine, and I haven't heard anybody tell a story like that before. So yeah,